Aloha, everyone. I'm Rev Rita.
And I'm Reverend Patrick.
This is Get Real with the Revs, and we are the spiritual directors of Center for Spiritual Living on the island of Kaua'i. And we've been here for about 7 years, growing strong. And even during this challenging time, we're still growing strong, and we're here to inspire. That's what we're here to do. And you can catch us on Sundays at 9 a.m. Online. Just go to our website, www.cslkauai.org, or afterward on YouTube, because we record all our beautiful Sunday inspirational services with music and lots of great stuff. But Get Real with the Revs is what we're doing today. It's a podcast that we invented, that we just talk about a topic that comes to our mind that we think may be relevant to the time. And the one we've picked today is called spiritual bypassing. And if you're not familiar with the term, Patrick's going to explain it.
Right, exactly. And the reason we really want to talk about it is because I think it's with all good intentions that we hear it, but spiritual bypassing is becoming one of those words, again, those catchphrases that just get said. And so I've been noticing, it's come to our attention lately, that the whole idea that new thought and spiritual bypassing seems to be getting put together, which Rita and I were talking about. It makes our mission very difficult if people are just putting bypass and new thought together. It's kind of like new thought, new age, new thought, and we just want to get a little bit more clarification about it. So interestingly enough, I heard of John Wellwood, who actually coined the phrase, and he passed away, I think it was last week, I don't know the exact date of it, but I didn't know that someone actually coined it. It's been said by so many colleagues and people all over in the motivational world as well. So this is what he has to say about it. He wrote a book called Toward a Psychology of Awakening, which in one of the textbooks he describes it as, he defines spiritual bypassing as using spiritual ideas and practices to sidestep personal, emotional, unfinished business, to shore up a shaky sense of self, or to belittle basic needs, feelings, and developmental tasks. Well, just that alone lets us know that that is not what our intention is, and it certainly is not spiritual science of mind and spirit's intention.
And I think it comes from this idea that sometimes there'll be situations where people will go, it's all good, it's all good. Mm-hmm. And yes, in a sense, it is all good, because we do believe in the goodness of the universe and that the universe supports us. But when we're looking at a reality in front of us, a fact that's happening, like let's say COVID-19 or a war that's happening or political unrest or whatever, we don't just go, oh, it's all good, and then, go on our merry way. What we do is, as our teacher Ernest Holmes said, we have to be able to look at a discordant fact in the face and know that we can change it. And the way we change it is by coming to a spiritual realization about it. So it's not about bypassing. It's about looking it right in the eye, mm-hmm. and just realizing that there's a bigger picture behind all of that. And it's this energy, this source that's pushing through everything. And so we get in touch with that. We get in touch with that place in ourselves, right? That needs to get up to be, come up to be healed. Let's say we're experiencing a serious illness. We don't just go, oh, it's all good. No, it's not all good. We're experiencing a serious illness, but it is a call to go deeper, is what we would say. So we would get in touch with that and realize, because when we realize the power and presence of God that we are, by doing our deep work and looking at really what's happening within ourselves, we get to overcome these things, to not even overcome them, I'd say to walk through them.
Right.
And you can add something.
Yeah, I think the most important thing is to remember that we don't bypass anything. Now, if there are those who are out there doing that and just going, oh, I don't know why you're so upset when everything is good, well, then I would run for the hills. But what we're asking, and what I'm noticing, is that we can't, I'm inviting us not to just throw the word spiritual bypassing out like everybody's doing it, because it does make it very difficult for someone like Rita and myself and the practitioners to do that. So one thing I do want to say is, when we do our spiritual mind treatments, we do bypass the conditions during our spiritual mind treatment. We turn away from them. And I would imagine, this is my guess, I could be wrong, but I would imagine if you were coming to me and you were sitting in front of me, that you would not want me to get involved in your conditions if we were going to go for what is the revealing of the healing. And let's talk about feelings. We are never in a session, we never ignore the feelings, because our philosophy is about feeling. And my personal philosophy is the feelings are the healing. So once you feel it, you can heal it, and you can't do it the other way. We've got to feel it, know it, but we don't have to take up residency there. And I think that that's where a lot of people get off. Now, interesting, here's a couple of the, some signs of emotional bypassing. Not focusing on the here and now, living in a spiritual realm much of the time. This is a psychologist who's writing this, obviously not someone who is working in the spiritual realm.
Well,
but
I think what
explain
he's
that.
saying, to me, what that says is that, let's say there's something really horrendous going on, okay? 9/11 happens, and we, you know, in 2001, 9/11 happens. And instead of like facing that and offering help and counseling with people and all of those things that we would do to pick up and help people that are afflicted or having a hard time, we would just go, oh, you know, we'd just be airy-fairy in the spiritual world and just kind of just going, oh, there's some good behind that. I know. It'll be all right. And what's the matter with them or whatever. We just make up some spiritual mojo stuff that doesn't make any sense. And God, that's not what we do.
Well, I want to just jump in here because I really want to look at this sentence just for fun. We're only having fun here. I'm not trying to sell you anything. But not focusing on the here and now. Actually, in spirituality, that's all we ever do.
Right.
Is to focus on the here and now in this moment. Visit the past, but if we take the past with us, as we know, in this moment, then we will create it in the future because we haven't taken care of that. So I think that's what people are saying. You have to take care of the emotions. And then it goes on to say, living in a spiritual realm much of the time. Well, my entire goal is to live in the spiritual realm all the time. So there is correct. That is
that's why
correct.
We call our philosophy spiritual living, because we're supposed to take whatever that is that we do during our meditations, during our prayers, during our, and we're supposed to take it into our life and use it. So that would be living in the spiritual realm to me. If I just go to a mountaintop and meditate and I'm not able to bring that into the grocery store and use it when I'm waiting online, then it does me no good. Or when I'm talking to my teenager and I'm having a hard time, it does me no good if I can't come from a spiritual perspective into that situation. Exactly. And that takes practice, right?
Right. I mean, Greg Braden says that all of the monks and people that he visited in Tibet and everything, they said, we're the ones that have the hard time because we're actually involved in the world. And as Master Jesus said, you know, what our goal is to be in this world, but not of it.
Right.
Right? Just to be in it, but not of it. And then he also says overemphasizing the positive and avoiding the negative. I absolutely agree. We can't avoid the negative, but I don't think we can overemphasize the positive enough.
I know we've been called Pollyanna sometimes.
It's okay. It's okay. But I'm just saying, how can you be too positive?
You can't be too positive. In fact, if you can look for the gift, any of the great mystics and teachers of this time said to look for the gift in whatever's occurring. There is always a gift. There's something behind it all that and when we find that gift is how we transcend ourselves through it, is finding the gift. Don't you agree? You know, and when we're in a situation where, you know, we go, oh my God, how did that happen? We look at the gift that it's brought into our life. And sometimes we don't see that gift until later. But it's always there. I know for myself in my own life, it's always there. I mean, I don't really have time to give a lot of examples right now, but it's always there.
Yeah, but we're not sitting there. The point is, and I think, and I hope it doesn't come off as, you know, we're defending the big spiritual bypass. In a way we are, because I don't think we take a look at what we actually do. What we are as spiritual beings. Yes, I mean, it says right here, overemphasizing the positive and avoid the negative, or being self-righteous about the concept of an enlightenment. Now, I agree with that. We have always said in New Thought. If somebody is telling you not to feel your feelings and that, oh, get over it, what were you thinking, then you're to run to the quickest door and go, because that's not what it's about. It is about us working through it, going through it, not bypassing it, but going
Well, and
through it.
realizing our power. We have this amazing power. We're infinite intelligence. We're a field of energy, really, that's never been touched by anything on some level. I mean, so yeah, once we realize our power, then we're able to walk through it.
Absolutely.
And we realize that we created this thing in some way. We attracted it. We might not have created it. We don't really create anything, but we do attract experiences. And when we when we attract something, and we realize how powerful we are, that energy that just attracts to us. It either attracts or repels. That once we know where we really at, we can do something to change it. And I'd like to just bring this to right now, to what we're experiencing on a global level, with the pandemic and the violence that's coming up. And what do we do about that? We don't spiritually bypass it, but we do raise ourselves to a higher consciousness, so we can approach it from a loving consciousness, from a non-judgmental consciousness, and actually look and see what is ours to do in this, because we all have something that we can give to this time on earth. We wouldn't be here if we didn't. At least that's my belief, that we have a strong purpose that's called us here at this time. And we don't spiritually bypass it. We have a spiritual experience. Ernest Holmes said that. He said what we need are people of spiritual conviction that are having spiritual experiences, and everything is spiritual. And even Carl Jung, the great Carl Jung said that nobody could actually be healed without a spiritual realization. And so this is where we're at right now. And what does that mean? What do you think, if you were going to define a spiritual realization or a spiritual experience? How would you define that?
I would probably right out of the bat say that that's just simply to remember who I am.
Right.
To remember who I am. And so sometimes I do not remember who I am, and that's when I suffer. And I know, as an example, I've been doing a lot of work in the inner child world right now. And just to let you know, for those of you watching, there is no way to bypass, spiritually bypass, or any other bypass, that part of us that needs to heal and to allow those feelings to be expressed. But it's not just spiritual bypassing. I know a lot of people who are not in the spiritual world. They're not in New Thought, New Age, New anything. They're not, that are bypassing very well on their own. And it's called psychological bypassing. And I don't think enough people really do talk about that we sit there and we allow ourselves to immerse ourselves so much in it that we never look for the actual foundation of spirituality that's going to actually lift us up out of it. So it's not just spiritual bypassing. Before I was ever involved in any of it, I bypassed a lot. Outdid all my stories just so I never had to get to the feelings. And that's the biggest thing that I say. The stories are lovely, but it's what's underneath the stories that need the healing and that require our attention. But I think it's very important, before we blanket anything, and I've done it myself, before we blanket anything, a spiritual bypassing or New Age or New Thought. We just had an example of someone that used New Thought as the same as New Age, and it's not.
No.
It's not the same, but it gets blanketed and it gets confusing for people
so
that aren't, involved.
For those of you not familiar with New Thought is, for us, when something is New Thought, it turns you within to your power. It realizes that you're powerful, your mind is powerful, and that you can affect your reality. But it takes work. It's practice. And we are finding this now, even in the field of science, that the mind is powerful, and we can change our mind about things. We can control that part of ourselves and think more positively and shift from our old stories into a new way of being. And this is what we do. And so just to wrap this up, I think that this all came from this idea that we just don't want this blanket thing called spiritual bypassing and to put out into the world. That's what we do as New Thought ministers. We do not. We help people with their issues. We counsel, spiritually counsel. We work, like Patrick said, through the feelings of the situation, and then we turn to the truth. The truth being that you are a spiritual being living in a spiritual universe governed by your use of the law of cause and effect. That is the spiritual principle that we live by. And
and like I always say in a session or on a Sunday when we're doing our messages is that we're here. I'll cry with you all night long if that's what we need to do in order to feel it and to heal it. But when we get done crying, or when we get done stomping our feet, or we get done, feeling victimized, which we've all felt that. When we get done with that, what I believe is my purpose as a spiritual counselor, spiritual leader, is to be with you, to remind you when all is said and done, who you are. And that is, you are magnificent, and there is nothing that we cannot have. But in the meantime, we'll work through those feelings. So,
so we'd like to close.
Bypass anything.
Are you done?
Yes.
Yeah,
I guess I am.
No, you don't have to be done. I think we've come to the end of our time. So we'd like to close with the spiritual mind treatment, which is our form of prayer. And you know what it is? It's claiming the truth in every situation, that there is a truth behind everything. And that is, like Patrick said, you are magnificent, and that there is a perfection within you. So
Before you do, I just want to, it's really important. I'm in one of those very teacher feels today. But the idea is that we're not just saying words. It's not for anyone who had background in prayers, Hail Marys, Our Fathers. We're not just saying it, we're actually moving energy.
Right.
That's the most important part, right? We're moving our consciousness in behalf of all of us.
Right. We speak our word, which is the power of the law, into the field, and and we change our minds and open up the field of light. And when you can just be receptive to a new way for yourself, if you're experiencing something right now. And I think I'm going to do a four-point treatment I did today for wellness in all areas of our life.
Yes.
Patrick wrote a beautiful blog today about everything being all right. And I think it's really important right now for us to have faith in that everything is all right, and that we are walking through this time, and that we are getting stronger and stronger and stronger, and finding our purposes. And so what I know right here and right now is I just go within and I turn away from all that, and I turn to the truth. And that is that there is only one thing, one power, one love, one light, one divine energy that's never, ever been touched by anything. And no matter what is going on in the storm of life, that energy is perfect in its essence. And so what I know as I turn to that energy, and as I turn away from the storm and into the recesses of that loving light of energy, I know that all is well. And I know that wellness is expressing itself through my life, through Patrick's life, and through all the lives listening here. That there is a bountiful prosperity that moves and lives and breathes through each of us. It is our divine birthright. And I know that it is manifested right here and right now in exactly the right way. And our health, our beautiful, amazing body apparatus, 50 trillion cells moving on our behalf, that infinite intelligence within us, bringing everything to wholeness. And I know we are creative. That's what we do. We create. That's what spirit does. It creates from itself, and our creativity is moving right here and right now in all its splendor through each of our lives, moving us to greatness, moving us to do great things, moving us to be amazingly passionate and creative in our lives. And I know that we have the most perfect relationships. We are aligned at all times in relationship to ourselves, especially to ourselves. That self-love is so important. And that right relationship that we have with ourselves moves out into our experience with everybody that we meet. God is meeting God at all times. It's a time of change in this world, a time of rebirth, and I know that we are all up for it right here and right now. So I give gratitude for the manifestation of this word I am speaking, and know that it is moving that law in the perfect direction for each and every person here uniquely as they require it. So I get out of the way of how that happens, and I just take my word and I drop it into that law and I let it go and I let it be as we affirm together.
And so it is. Let's just stay marinated in that for a moment, right? Just feel that it actually has landed. And we know something about you, as we've said earlier today, and I think it bears repeating. You are magnificent.
Thanks for joining us
That's
today.
right. We
Have
love
a beautiful
you.
time.